Not half the woman my mother didn't even blink when she said it. We were halfway through dinner, the roast chicken still steaming between us when she looked at me and said, "You're not half the woman your sister is." The room tilted. I felt every year I'd spent staying quiet pulled tight across my chest, and before I could stop myself I said, "Then she can start paying your rent." Forks froze midair, my father went pale. "Rent?" He whispered like the word itself might swallow him. "What rent?" But that moment, the shock, the silence, the fear flickering across his face was nothing compared to what was still coming. My name is Nora Ellis. For most of my life, I've been the quiet one in a family that never stopped talking about my sister. People assume I'm shy. I'm not. I just learned early that in my parents' house, silence kept the peace, and peace, fragile as it was, felt worth protecting. On paper, my life is steady. I'm a financial manager at a logistics company near the Portland docks. I like numbers because they don't lie to you and deadlines because they don't play favorites. My days have a rhythm. The echo of forklifts outside, the hum of the office, the soft click of my keyboard. I go home to a small apartment with warm lamps and a view of the river, cook pasta, tie my hair back, and find comfort in small, orderly things. The steadiness always ended on Fridays. That's when I drove out to my parents' two-story house in the suburbs, hedges trimmed, porch swept, the architecture of a perfect family. The moment I stepped inside, I felt 16 again. The second daughter, the supporting role in Vivian's highlight reel. My sister has always been the star, tall, certain, the kind of person who walks into a room and expects it to rearrange itself around her. She debated her way to trophies in high school, took a law scholarship, and stepped into a career people applauded before she'd done anything to earn it. I watched her take the spotlight like she'd been born holding it. My parents adored her, they still do. Every holiday, every dinner, they held her accomplishments up like offerings, the cases she'd won, the promotions, the house she'd bought, her plans, her potential. And then there was me. Nora, who paid her own tuition at 17. Nora, who worked 2 jobs through college. Nora, who never asked for help. I'd learned not to. It wasn't that my parents disliked me, they just preferred the louder story. Still, I kept showing up every Friday because they expected it. "This family has a seat for you," my dad liked to say. "Don't leave it empty." Half joking, mostly not, my mother called if I was 5 minutes late. "Family first," she'd remind me, though it usually felt more like Vivian first. The dinners followed a script. The same roast chicken, the same questions for Vivian, the same wins recounted in detail while I moved food around my plate and pretended the quiet didn't weigh anything. But the Friday before everything broke felt different. My mother kept giving me these sharp, assessing looks. Vivian was unusually pleased with herself, like she was sitting on a secret. My father cleared his throat too many times, his tell, the sound he makes before an announcement. I felt a storm gathering under the clatter of dishes. I just didn't know it would land on me first. That dinner started the way they always did, but the air had weight to it. My mother hovered by the stove longer than usual, stirring a pot that didn't need stirring, her jaw set. Vivian scrolled her phone with a grin that looked rehearsed. My father kept clearing his throat. We sat down, and the conversation did what it always did, it turned to Vivian. "She's presenting at a conference next week," my mother said, beaming. They asked her specifically. "She's always been exceptional," my father added, smiling like he was posing for a campaign ad. Vivian shrugged with practiced modesty. "They know talent when they see it." I chewed slowly, swallowing chicken and something more bitter alongside it. I'd spent that entire day fixing a financial mess someone else had made, but that never made it to this table. My work lived quietly in the corners of my parents' house, tucked behind bills and grocery lists nobody read twice. I tried anyway. "I led a big project at work this week." My director said, my mother waved a hand before I finished. "You're doing fine, Nora, but Vivian's work affects hundreds of people, it's different." Small, precise, intentional, the sting landed exactly where she'd aimed it. I looked down at my plate and reminded myself to breathe. Just another Friday, I told myself. Another night of swallowing what I wished I could say. Then my father leaned back with a dramatic sigh. "Speaking of homes," he said, "Vivian helped us sort through some mortgage paperwork last month. She's been such a blessing." Something cold moved up my spine. Mortgage paperwork, blessing. Vivian's grin widened. It wasn't a big deal. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. 3 years of payments pulsed behind my ribs, payments I'd made quietly without applause because they'd told me not to worry anyone with it. I'd given up vacations, graduate classes, even the down payment on my own place. And now they were rewriting whodunit, heat built in my chest, slow at first, then rising. My mother must have felt it coming because she gave me that look, the patronizing tilt of her head that always meant "Stay quiet, Nora." And then she said it, "You're not half the woman your sister is." The room didn't just go quiet. It snapped. I sat up straight. I heard the scrape of my chair against the hardwood. I felt every word I'd swallowed over the years rise at once, like a held breath finally let go. For the first time at that table, I didn't push it back down. "Then she can start paying your rent." Silence slammed into the room. Rent, my father said, voice cracking. What rent? I didn't flinch. The mortgage payments for 3 years. Three pairs of eyes went wide, shock, denial, and something close to fear. I felt strangely light, like I'd finally set down a weight no one else had even known I was carrying. My mother recovered first. Nora, don't be dramatic. We never asked you to, you did, I said, steady. Every month, just this once, you said. We'll handle it next month. Don't let the bank send a notice. I have the receipts, I have the messages, I have everything. My father's face went the color of paper. You shouldn't bring this up now, it's not appropriate. There it was, the dismissal, the redirection, the old reflex to shove the truth back into the dark where they preferred to keep me. I stood the rest of the way up, hands braced on the back of my chair. What's inappropriate, I said, is pretending Vivian saved a house I paid to keep standing. Vivian finally spoke, her voice thin. Nora, maybe you misheard. Maybe Mom didn't mean. I wasn't listening anymore. I watched them scramble to reshape the story into something they could live with, and for the first time, I didn't shrink to fit it. Something inside me clicked shut, clean and final. I got my coat and walked out into the cold Portland night. My breath shook, but not from regret. It was the strange shock of hearing myself stand up after years of sitting down. That night in my apartment, I opened my laptop and found the automatic payment I'd set up 3 years earlier. I clicked cancel. Are you sure? A small box asked. I was. I expected canceling those payments to feel like closure. Instead, it felt like something cracking open. For the first time in 3 years, my account didn't empty out on the 15th. The silence from my parents afterward was loud enough to rattle the walls. I started running along the river in the mornings, at first just to burn off the shaking in my hands, but eventually the rhythm of it started to feel like freedom. I signed up for a Thursday pasta making class at the community center and laughed with strangers who knew nothing about my family. I let friends talk me into weekend hikes near Mount Hood, where the air felt like it hadn't been breathed by anyone's expectations yet. With distance, things came into focus. Every just this month, every don't tell anyone, every dinner where they'd praised Vivian while I quietly paid the bills underneath the conversation. Then came the photo. Mrs. Jensen, my parents' elderly neighbor, the kind of woman who notices everything, texted me a picture of my childhood home on a Sunday morning. A banner stretched across the porch read, "Congratulations, Vivian, for preserving the family home." I went still, preserving. Vivian, every late night transfer, every sacrifice, every time I'd told myself family comes first, rewritten as if I'd never been there at all. I didn't cry this time. What I felt was sharper than that and steadier. I pulled out the folder where I'd kept 3 years of receipts and statements, and I started sorting them date by date, month by month. By the time I finished, it didn't look like a stack of paperwork anymore. It looked like a quiet record of everything I'd carried alone. That's when Sarah called. "Nora, I think you should know," she said carefully. "Your parents are planning a family appreciation dinner next month in Seattle. They asked me to put together the slideshow." I braced myself. "Let me guess, it's about Vivian." "It's worse than that." I could hear her wincing through the phone. "They want to call her the reason the house was saved." They gave me the captions. "They're calling her the anchor of the family." Anchor, savior, hero, words I'd earned and never once heard. "Send me the file," I said. "Are you sure?" "I'm very sure." When it arrived, I opened it and let out a hollow laugh. Photo after photo of Vivian on the porch, my parents' arms around her, captions thanking her for keeping our family home safe. So I made a copy and added what they'd left out. After their final slide, I built a timeline, bar charts of 3 years of monthly payments, screenshots of my mother's texts, names blurred but the meaning unmistakable. The last slide was a photo of the house with 6 words underneath. "The truth deserves a place too." I saved it to my laptop, to the cloud, and onto a USB drive I started carrying like a second heartbeat. Weeks passed. I moved into a new apartment in Seattle, bright, quiet, floor-to-ceiling windows over the skyline. A light gray sofa, a small oak table, one tall bookshelf. For the first time, I walked into a home that belonged entirely to me. Then the invitation came, a text from my mother, family appreciation dinner, dress nicely, no explanation. No apology. When the day arrived, I didn't go to impress anyone, I went to finish something. The restaurant glowed with soft amber light. Through the glass, I could see them already, my parents, Vivian in an emerald dress, relatives I hadn't seen in years, everyone dressed like they were attending a ceremony. In a way, they were. I waited by the door as my father took the microphone. "We're here," he said, "to honor our daughter Vivian, the one who stepped up during a difficult time, who helped us keep the home that's been in this family for decades." Applause, cameras. The slideshow began, Vivian on the porch, Vivian holding papers, Vivian smiling beside my mother, caption after caption telling a story that wasn't true. Then the screen flickered, a bar chart appeared, then another. Then the dates, 3 years of payments laid out in plain, unforgiving clarity. The room went silent, my parents froze. Vivian's mouth fell open, I stepped into the light. "If the truth makes anyone uncomfortable tonight," I said, "that's not my problem." Every head turned. My father looked at me like I was a ghost he hadn't expected to see again. My mother's face crumpled not with shame, I noticed, but with the fear of being found out. Vivian's eyes filled not with sorrow but with dread. I walked toward the screen. For 3 years I paid the mortgage, not once, every month. Quietly, while you, I looked at my parents, rewrote the story so it would be easier to applaud. My father tried. Nora, take this outside. Why? I asked. You wanted everyone here to know what Vivian did. Why shouldn't they know what I did? Whispers moved through the room. Something always felt off. She was always working late. 3 years, she paid all of that. Vivian was trembling. I didn't ask them to do this. You just enjoyed being the hero in a story that was never yours, I said, not cruelly, just plainly. My mother finally found her voice. Nora, we didn't want to embarrass you. I laughed, soft and tired. Embarrass me by telling the truth? The USB drive sat heavy in my pocket, but I never needed it. What was already on the screen was enough. For the record, I said, I don't want the house. I don't want credit, I just won't let you erase me. The silence held even after I stepped away. My father reached a hand toward me. Nora, wait, I didn't. I turned and walked out into the cool Seattle night and stood on the steps, breathing it in, feeling lighter than I had in years. This wasn't revenge, it was release. They could argue, cry, deny it all they wanted inside that room. None of it mattered anymore. The truth had been spoken, and I'd finally stepped out of the shadow they'd kept me in. You don't go back once you've found your own light. 2 days later, I was watering a plant on my balcony when someone knocked. Through the peephole, my parents standing close together, looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. My mother's eyes were swollen. My father's shoulders were tense, like the Seattle air had carved new lines into both of them. I opened the door without a word. They stepped inside slowly, taking in the apartment like it belonged to a life they hadn't imagined for me, the windows, the bookshelf, the quiet I'd built for myself. My mother spoke first. Nora, we're sorry, her voice cracked. We were wrong, we let the story become something it wasn't. We shouldn't have let you carry it alone. We talked, my father added. We want your name on the house, you earned it. I let the words settle. Not with bitterness, just clarity. I don't need it, I said. I have a home now, my own. What I needed was respect and honesty, not a deed. They went quiet, my mother's hands were shaking. My father stared at the floor like the truth had finally dragged him somewhere unfamiliar. I'm not angry anymore, I said, but I'm done disappearing. If we're going to rebuild anything, it starts there. Something shifted in the room. Not forgiveness, not yet, but an opening. A place where we might finally breathe without the old story crushing the air out of it. When they left, the apartment felt brighter. I stood on the balcony, looking out over the skyline, and understood I'd crossed a line there was no walking back across. For the first time, the future felt like it belonged entirely to me. I stood out there a long time after the door closed, watching the lights blink against the dark. For years, I believed keeping the peace meant keeping quiet, but silence doesn't protect you, it erases you. Choosing myself didn't break my family, it broke the story that had kept me small, and maybe that's where things actually begin.